whether the team is performing clean or unsightly. We'll cover it all here on Washington Football Nightly. I, of course, am your host, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. So Ron Rivera made his Tuesday appearance on 106.7 The Fan with the Junkies. This is an obligation that he'll have all season long. And in that interview with the Junkies, there was an excerpt that was taken that found its way to me. And I want to share this with you because you know I like to toot my own horn, right? You guys know that. I tell you when I'm wrong. Like, I was really wrong about this defense. I could not have imagined we'd be here talking about the defense being the worst in the NFC East and the worst part of this team 6 weeks into the season. I could have never imagined that, and I would never have uttered those words. But here we are, talking about this defense and how it's holding this team back. We've got the 11th rated offense right now in the league. You would think with the 11th rated offense coming from where we came from last year, that this team, if you would have told me in the offseason, 5 weeks into the season, going into week 6, you've got the 11th rated offense in the NFL. I would have told you either we're 4-1 or we're undefeated. Okay? With the defense that we thought we were going to have with the 11th rated offense, we were one of the worst offenses in the league last year. 11th? Hard for me to fathom that we'd be sitting here talking about this offense being as bad, or this defense, being as bad as it was. And I was just flat out wrong about this defense. But when I'm right, you know I'm going to tell you I'm right. And what did I tell you guys last year? I told you guys something that I thought, was really, profound to me. And because when I came up with Ron's plan, it essentially was pieced together by things Ron had said. And Ron has been pretty much straightforward since he's gotten here. He's had his moments, the whole, bungling of the clock and wanting to get players out of there safely and not using his timeouts. You had people making excuses for him. He was dealing with cancer. He wasn't in his right mind, yada, yada, yada. I don't buy that. I just think Ron just didn't want to call the timeouts. He didn't think he could win, and he didn't realize he was going to get the backlash that he did for doing what he did. That said, there was that situation, and now and then it was the Dwayne situation. He got a little chesty there, but I didn't think he needed to do that. But, he had to get people to understand this is my team, and I'm going to do things that I feel like is right in the best interest of this team. And so he got a little chesty there, and now he's finding himself in a similar situation now. And this is the first time, because like I said, last year was a honeymoon. This is the first time he's found himself in this position with this team where people are starting to doubt him. No one doubted him when he benched Dwayne Haskins. They were questioning whether it was the right decision or not, but they weren't doubting him, okay? No one was, doubting him. When you start, waving the white flag and you're getting your ass beat, is there a sense of, that's not normally how people do things, when you're a competitor? Are you the utmost, competitor? Are you a competitor through and through and not going to give up until, there's nothing left to give? You can question that, but we were going to lose those games. Him calling his timeouts was inconsequential in the outcome of those games. So I really didn't care about that stuff. I generally don't like to quit, but whatever. Okay, fine. The bottom line was those situations pale in comparison to now, because those situations, he was still in year one. We were all kind of in that honeymoon phase, as I mentioned, and no one was really going to question Ron. Now you're in year two, and the expectations are high. Well, why are the expectations high? And I said this right after the season was done. I said this exact thing multiple times, and I've been echoing that all offseason and even into the regular season. And I said the worst thing that could have happened to Ron. Now, I said Ron shouldn't feel bad about this. He couldn't have predicted this. And honestly, it's a blessing in disguise from the standpoint of your players got to be exposed to something they had no business being exposed to last year, which was postseason football. and playing in meaningful games late in the season and having to win. They got exposed to some things that they shouldn't have been exposed to at 7-9, but they did. But I said, being 7-9, winning this division is going to heighten expectations to a level that they don't belong at. And it's going to put Ron in a situation where he didn't expect to be in year 2 of this rebuild. And let's call it what it is. It's a rebuild. Ron tore this thing down when he got here, and he's building it back up and getting it into the image and molding it into what he wants it to be. And in order to do that, it takes time. Well, time is not going to be afforded to you the way that you thought when you win the division in year 1. All of a sudden, and again, it was 7-9. A lot of people have selective memory. They conveniently forget that we won this division at 7-9. And I kept saying this, guys. We won this division at 7-9. Let's keep that in mind. Keep it in its proper perspective. We did not win this division at 11-5. We did not win this division at 10-6. Hell, we did not even win this division at 9-7. We won this division at 7-9. So take it with a grain of salt. Just know that if the Cowboys had Dak Prescott last year, they win this division. Just know that if the Giants have Saquon Barkley, they probably win this division. But neither of those teams did. So we had the best unit of any team in the division at any of any unit. So better than the Cowboys offense, better than the Eagles defense, better than the Giants offense or defense. Our defense was the best unit in the division, and because of that, we won the division. But we were 7-9. And I said, Ron, the worst thing that could have happened is that you won this division because I'm talking to the fan base on a daily basis. I know what the expectation is. I'm getting people telling me 12-5. 11-6, 13-4. We're going to the Super Bowl this year. And I'm like, whoa, these people. And again, it wasn't the vast majority of you, but it was enough people that I said, this thing is getting out of control. And then the people that were rational listened to enough ESPN and Fox Sports 1 and enough of Get Up and enough of these players and ex-coaches telling them that, hey, this defense with Ryan Fitzpatrick, look out for the Washington football team. And you hear that shit enough. And all of a sudden, they started out reasonable at 8-9, maybe even 9-8, maybe even 7-10. And as you hear that enough, this defense featuring all number 1 first round draft picks, or first round draft picks. In this secondary that got William Jackson III and is going to get Landon Collins back. And this offense now with Ryan Fitzpatrick at quarterback. And they added Curtis Samuel at receiver. Look out for the Washington football team. And you hear that enough. And all of a sudden, that 8-9 turns into 10-7. And that 9-7 turns into 11-6. And all of a sudden, Ron's, hey, let's build this thing the right way. Let's do this in a manner that's going to take some time, but we're going to do it the right way. And we're going to do it that's going to sustain itself over time. We're going to do this in a manner that's going to have us winning year after year after year after year and not going and chasing after that one flash in the pan season. Well, winning the division last year put not only undue pressure on this staff and on these players, and again, as players, you should want that pressure. As coaching staff, you should want that pressure. You don't want the expectations to be super low. It's easier to do that. It's easy when no one's thinking about you and you can fly under the radar. Everybody would like to be that, but guess what? If you're actually good, that doesn't happen. When you're the Green Bay Packers, when you're the Kansas City Chiefs, when you're the Baltimore Ravens, you don't get to be afforded the, we are being disrespected underdog card. The Patriots used to try to play that all the time. But in reality, no one's doubting you. No one's disrespecting you. You got Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. But they would play that card all the time. Why? Because they needed to find a way to drum up motivation. To try to rally the troops. It's them against us. It's so much easier when You can just fly under the radar. Oh, that's Washington. No one's worried about them. Good. They don't think we can do it. Now you can use that as a rallying cry in the locker room. But what happens when everybody expects you to do something and you're not ready to do it, which is where we are this year? Everyone's expecting Washington to be something that they're not. This defense to be elite and among the best in the league. Clearly, they're not ready to do that. They're expecting this team to compete with Dallas for this division. Clearly, they're not ready to do that. Their schedule says that they won the division, so they need to play Tampa Bay, Kansas City, Buffalo, Seattle, Green Bay. Clearly, they're not ready to do that. But that's what happens when you win the division. So listen to what Ron had to say today on the Junkies program. I'm going to read you this whole quote, and I'm going to tell you my reaction to what he had to say. So this question was posed to him on the defense having a long way to go. Here's Ron Rivera's response. Quote, well, we have a long way to go to be consistent. Again, everybody sees, unfortunately, the two bad plays. I get it. There were two bad plays that really, truly impacted this game. But don't take away from what the guys have done. Don't take away from the improvement that has been made. This is about growing and developing. If every time all we want to do is remember the negative, then we are not going to go anywhere. We're going to keep getting pulled backwards. We're trying to develop, we're trying to get better, and we're trying to become a football team that can win on a consistent basis. This is about teaching a bunch of young guys, teaching a second year and third year defensive end how it is done. Trying to make sure that the rookies that we're trying to develop get more opportunity. Give them a chance to grow and develop, guys. Again, if stuff like this happened overnight, then Rome would have been built overnight. But we're going through this and we're developing and growing, guys. Again, understand that what is happening is we're trying to get past these things. We're trying to focus in on what is truly the development of this football team for the long run, not an overnight fix. You almost want to say, man, I wish 7-9 last year wouldn't have been good enough to win the division. That way, the expectations would have been much lower and it would have been a lot easier. But this is hard. This is the way it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be hard because that is the only way you learn. Closed quote. So let me give you my reaction to what Ron just said there. First of all, I hate that he continues to harp on the two plays thing because that is not indicative of what this season has been. That particular game had two big plays in it, but those two big plays happen every single week against this defense. So I don't want to hear that over and over and over and over again as if those two big plays aren't happening on a weekly basis. Stop talking about those two plays. And let me say this too, because some of you interpret what I say the wrong way. I'm still Ron's plan. Ron's plan. All day, every day. Nothing has changed because, as I said when he first got here, he chose us. We didn't choose him. He chose us. All right? And if he didn't choose us, we would have had some Joe Schmo as our coach right now. And we would have been stinking it up and you would have been ready to fire that guy. He came here with chops. He came here with a reputation, whether good or bad. Some of you say, whoa, he's only had 3 winning seasons in 10 years. He stinks. Okay, that's cool. He's been to a Super Bowl. I don't want to give a shit how you categorize 15-1. 15-1 is 15-1. They caught lightning about it. Okay, whatever. I can tell you that 3/4 of the league has never played in a Super Bowl before, coaching-wise. He's one of those guys that's in that elite group that didn't win it, but has played in a Super Bowl, has coached in a Super Bowl, all right? There aren't many players that have coached and played in a Super Bowl. Ron has. So he knows what it takes to get there as a player, which means he can relate to the players, and he knows what it takes to get there as a coach. We weren't going to get that if Ron Rivera didn't take this job. Anyway, I digress. Back to the comments that Ron made. Stop talking about those two damn plays because every week it's two plays. Every week there are two big mistakes made by this defense or two big mistakes made by this team overall. Every week there is something we can talk about that we shouldn't be talking about that are mistakes that shouldn't be being made and duplicated week after week after week, but they are happening, and that's why we keep talking about it. You want us to not talk about it as if it was a one-off. It wasn't a one-off. Maybe the Hail Mary was. We had a Hail Mary the week before, and we knocked the shit down. We have the same play, and we looked like we had never seen a Hail Mary in our lives. So yeah, we want to talk about it. We want to talk about the fact that since week 2, there's been a busted coverage every single week with a guy running wide open with nobody around him. And if not for Daniel Jones slightly overthrowing Darius Slayton, and Slayton probably still should have caught the damn football. If not for in week number 3 with the Bills, a little bit of pressure being on Daniel Jones with Stephon Diggs being wide ass open because we blew coverage, it would have been another touchdown on a blown coverage. In week 4, we did give up a big play to Cordero Patterson. Wide ass open because why we blew coverage again. So when we blow coverage in week 5, when we give up a Hail Mary, we don't want to talk about it was just 2 plays. The shit happens every single week. So you can't keep talking about it's just 2 plays. It's just 2 plays. What about the other possessions when we needed stops, when it was 20-16? Didn't get a stop. What happens when we go down and get the touchdown? You go for it on 4th down. It's a ballsy call. The offense pays it back to you and makes you look good for going for it. You get the touchdown. It's now 27-22, and we need a stop. What happens then? We want to talk about that because that's the shit that's been happening all season long. The offense tries to gain control of the game, and they need the football back. They're hot. They just scored. The defense needs to get a stop, and they give up a drive for some points. Let's talk about that. Did some good things happen in the game? Sure. But the good didn't outweigh the bad. There was still more bad than good. That's why we want to talk about it, Ron. And you should too. You should too. So that's the first part of that conversation and that quote that irks me. But let's get to the back end. The part that I've been singing. The same song that I've been singing all season long, starting at the very end of the season. Where I'm like, man, Ron, I'm telling you, bro, the worst thing that could have happened is that you won the division. Now, I'm glad he won the division, and he should be glad too. Ron, you can't say that out loud. There's no benefit to you saying that out loud. You can think that, and he should be thinking that in his head. Man, that 7-9 winning the division, that shit effed us up. It messed up my whole timeline and how we were going to go about this cleanly and without a hitch. That shit just threw a monkey wrench in our entire plan. But guess what? That's life. You know, you draw things up in life to go a certain way, and then something always comes along and messes that plan up, and you got to adjust on the fly. So getting the division at 7-9 you were excited. You were celebrating it last year. It was great. But you knew that and he even said it. Ron said it last year when we won the division. And even this offseason, one of the first things out of Ron's mouth is, hey, winning the division comes with a first place schedule. Ron was thinking about this shit as it happened. So I knew what Ron was thinking. And I told you guys, when they won the division, I said, the worst thing that can happen is now the expectations are going to go through the roof. And if we're not, and he said, we're a young team, we're immature. And Ron has been talking about that, and he said, we got some growing to do. And because of that, they're not going to be ready. And you could tell. This defense, they kept talking about, you know, potential this. You can't talk about, don't talk about potential. You can't worry about what you did last year. All of the coach speak that was given to them, they did a great job of rehearsing that and reciting it to us. You know, we got to start at the bottom of the mountain. We're back at the bottom with everybody else. We got to work our way back up. Can't take what you did last year and have it just bleed over into this year. We got to do it all over again. All that shit sounds good. That's what Rivera and Jack Del Rio were preaching this offseason. And they did a good job of regurgitating that when they had a microphone stick in front of their face. But the bottom line is they weren't thinking that mentally. They thought that they were the big men on campus. Like, this is our defense. We show up, you shaking your boots, we get shit done. And it couldn't have been further from the truth. And they're getting their asses torched defensively, and now shit's getting hard. It's easy when you're winning and you got all the praise and accolades coming your way. Shit is hard. And this is when you're going to find out what kind of team we have. This is going to be a rough week for them. Ron's already enduring a rough week. Okay, and the shit's not even started yet. They didn't even hit the practice field. They will tomorrow. There will be more questions asked of this team and these players. And you can see they're getting testy. I want to bring this up to you guys. I don't know if I brought this to your doorstep. I felt like I did when it happened. But did you guys hear about, you know what? I'll save it for the next segment. So hopefully I don't forget. So essentially, Ron said, I wish we hadn't won the division last year at 7-9. And then he backtracks at the end of that and says, but we did win it. And that makes things tough. And it needs to be tough because that's how you learn. It's almost like he caught himself realizing, I just divulged way too much information. You don't say that shit out loud, Ron. Even if that's what you're thinking, you don't say it out loud. No one else is supposed to know that thought. Okay? There's certain things that you are able to say out of your mouth, and there's certain things that are never supposed to leave your brain. You can think it, you never utter those words. He wasn't supposed to admit that, yeah, this season's really tough and we're not ready for it and we shouldn't have won the division last year. Like, he essentially gave a hypothetical. Like, you know, in your mind, you're saying, yeah, probably shouldn't have won the division because we weren't ready for that yet. That's true, but you don't say that. Then he tried to backtrack and kind of caught himself and like, no, that makes it hard and it needs to be hard because that's how we're going to learn. He shouldn't have said that because that's loser talk. You leave the loser talk for the fans. You let the fans talk about going 3-14 to get the quarterback. You don't, as a coach, you don't think that way, right? Like, leave the loser talk for the fans. So I didn't like that fact that he said that. He tried to clean it up at the end, but he wasn't able to do that. What's done is done. What's said is said. You said that, and that's how you feel. You tried to passive aggressively throw it out there. Like, yeah, I didn't actually say that. That's how, you know, somebody could think that way. No, that's how you feel. That's why you said it. Here's the biggest issue I got with Ron right now. And I don't know what his coaching style was in Carolina. It's probably similar to what it is now. The biggest problem with Ron is he's not coaching like his mentors. He's not coaching like his mentors. His mentors were Mike Ditka and Buddy Ryan, the two guys that kind of molded and shaped him as a head coach, as a player when he was with the Chicago Bears for 2 years with Buddy Ryan from 84 to 86. He learned the 46 defense, and he learned what it was to be a smart player, you know, coach on the field as a player. He learned what it looked like and why you do certain things and what the results should be when you do it correctly from Buddy Ryan. He also learned from Buddy Ryan and Mike Ditka that whatever you think is good enough isn't good enough. And I'm going to push the hell out of you until I get the best that you possibly can give. And that's when you know that you've been coached properly and that I've done my job and now you guys can do the rest. Trust me when I tell you, Buddy Ryan and Mike Ditka aren't going to be sitting here at a press conference or in an interview after, you know, your team has lost a game that they should have won and continue to make defensive mistakes and tell you, we did some good things. We did some really good things, and you guys need to focus on the good things we did. Don't worry about the bad things. Don't worry about those 2 plays. Focus on the good things. The defense got more pressure this week. You know, there were less third down conversions. Focus on that. We forced 2 turnovers. Focus on that stuff. You think Buddy Ryan would give a shit about forcing 2 turnovers and getting a little bit more pressure on the quarterback after a 33-22 loss in which his defense surrendered 33 points? You think Buddy Ryan gives a shit about more pressure and 5 of 14 on third downs for the New Orleans Saints when your defense surrendered 33 points? You think Mike Ditka would give a shit about any of that stuff? He's not coaching like his mentors. He knows better than this. I don't get that. Those guys wouldn't be harping on, let's focus on the positives. No, they'd be getting into your ass about the negatives. That's what Bill Belichick does. And I'm not saying what Belichick does is the right thing. But in order to get guys to understand that it's not okay to make mistakes, you got to beat the shit out of them when they do make mistakes. You got to let them know, look, this is not how we operate here. Don't praise them for the 2 sacks and the 2 turnovers and 5 of 14 on third downs, that shit came with 33 points. You can praise them when all of those things come with 17 points given up on the scoreboard. The Saints went 2 of 2 in the red zone. The Saints had a Hail Mary and a 72-yard bomb for a touchdown. I'm not praising this defense for shit. And neither should you, Ron. That's the problem I have with what he's doing right now. He's looking for sympathy. He wants everyone to, he wants us as fans to forget about 30 years of torture and just give him a chance. Just give me a fair chance. That's what Ron wants. It don't work that way, brother. When you take this job, you inherit the other 28 years of torture that this fan base has gone through. You got to inherit that. And you got to know that, and you got to be able to understand that you're not going to get a clean slate. You're not going to have a fan base that's going to be instantly patient because you say, hey, I need 4 years. Especially not after you win the damn division. Okay? He's got to understand all of this. And I thought he did when he first got here. Not sure if he does now, but I don't fault him for trying, but it's a losing battle. That's all I'm going to say. It's not a battle he's going to win. That's for sure. So let's go on to in other news. And I want to start with what I was about to say because I'll forget if I don't start with that. And I don't really have a lot here anyway. So I don't know if I brought this to your doorstep or not. I feel like I did last week on the show, but there was an interview last week, and I love the way that the Washington football team, media team, dissected this interview, this press conference, and they only showed us the parts they wanted to see. It was a bitch move by the Washington football team, but I would venture to say that all 32 teams would do it this way, right? Not just Washington, because you don't want to put negativity out there from a player, which it could be perceived as that. But Bobby McCain got after the media after the loss to the after the win, against the Atlanta Falcons. He got after the media. Oh, he dug in their ass. Y'all ain't for us. Y'all want us to be, divide us, and y'all want us to be divisive, and all this shit y'all asking us. Y'all ain't on our side anyway. So I wouldn't tell y'all what was wrong and what was said anyway, because y'all just want to tear us apart. Essentially is what he did. He went on a nice little minute and 30-second diatribe. And if you watch his presser, it cuts from the part where he snaps, first where the question is asked, to what he said, and then they come back afterwards. Like I said, it's a bitch move, but I know why they did what they did. But I still was able to find out what the hell was said. You were too if you were paying attention. And I think that's the sentiment right now with this team is that, the media is trying to tear us apart, and we got to stick together. And I want them to stick together. And if that's what you got to use, the media is trying to drive a wedge in between us, and if that's your rallying cry and it's us against everyone else, sure, knock yourself out. Whatever you got to do, just fix the shit. Just fix it. But I just wanted to say this, and then we're going to get out of here. I don't have a lot here for you. I know you guys have heard the news of Jon Gruden resigning from his post as the head man in Vegas for the Raiders. He wasn't just the head coach. He ran the entire organization. And so, it's going to take a lot for him to remove himself from that post. And obviously, it happened because of the Washington football team investigation that was like 562 pages or whatever, and we haven't heard or seen any of it. And all of these interviews, all of this boxes and boxes of documents and information gathered by Beth Wilkinson. And you can't tell me, and I'm just going to say this, you can't tell me in all of that shit that you found, and I'm going to expound upon this on the podcast tonight. I'm not going to do it here. I'm going to save it for the podcast tonight. So feel free to join me if you like. You can't tell me that with all the information gathered by Beth Wilkinson, that you were able to get enough dirt on Jon Gruden to get him the hell out of there, But the guy that you're actually investigating, the organization that you're actually investigating in the Washington football team, you weren't able to uncover anything that could have gotten Dan Snyder the hell out of here. I wonder why. I'm going to leave it at that, and we'll talk about it tonight on the podcast. But that's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. I thank you guys for joining me on Washington Football Nightly. Look forward to chopping it up with you guys tomorrow, where we will see the team return to practice, and we'll get the injury report for the upcoming week's 6 contest versus the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm not looking forward to seeing the injury report, much like last week. I'm not looking forward to seeing it this week. It may be a little bit more positive this week. We'll see, but Sam Cosmi will be on it as well this week, and who knows? Taylor Heineke could be on it. He got banged up pretty good. We know that Curtis Samuel is going to be on it again. So we'll see what happens. We'll know a lot before tomorrow's show because practice would have taken place. We'll hear from some of the players. We'll hear from Ron Rivera tomorrow. We'll hear from Taylor Heineke more likely than not tomorrow. Terry McLaurin and Chase Young and some of those guys, some of the leaders of the team, we'll hear from them tomorrow and see what they have to say. They're going to get a very aggressive line of questioning, and how they answer those questions will be really interesting to see. Terry will probably be the one guy that doesn't get a ton of those questions because he's usually pretty stand-up with the media, and he's producing at a high level. So he's got nothing to worry about. But it's the other guys that are probably going to face some serious questions, and we'll see how those guys answer those questions because this is going to be a tough week. And if they don't win, which I don't think they will, it'll get even tougher from here on out. So that's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. Thank you guys for joining me. I am a Washington fan, etched in burgundy and gold. My Washington spirit will never die. Washington spirit will never fold until we meet again. Hail to our beloved Washington football team. I will see you guys later on tonight for the podcast. If not, see you guys tomorrow for the podcast. If not, then I'll see you guys tomorrow for Washington Football Nightly live tomorrow night, 8:30 p. Should be one hell of a show. Until then, you guys, take care. Have a good one.
Here comes the diesel. Here comes the diesel. There's the snap. Hand to Riggins. Good hole. He's got the first down to the 40. He's gone. The 35, the 30, the 20.